the crazy story of Andrey Arshavin's transfer to Arsenal. Arshavin's transfer to Arsenal is no ordinary story. It all started with Arshavin's performance in UEFA Euro 2008, where he scored 2 goals and was part of the team of the tournament, which brought him to the attention of several of European top clubs. In June 2008, Barcelona offered Euro 15 million, an offer which was rejected by Zenit. Also, Tottenham offered £15 million in August, an offer which was again rejected by Zenit because they valued Arshavin at about 22 million. The high value on his head and constant rejections led to discontent from Arshavin, who said 2008 would be his last season for Zenit. The agents from Arsenal and Zenit first got in touch with Arshavin in November 2008, which went on through December and into the January transfer window. Initially, the two clubs were a long way apart in their valuation. Arsenal offered 8 million, with Zenit demanding 15 million. Zenit inquired about a player plus cash exchange also, but that discussion never really went any further. Arsenal then moved a little and offered 10 million by mid-January, which was still a long way off the 15 million which Zenit had demanded. At this point, the negotiations had completely stopped. At the start of the last week of the window, Arsenal upped their offer to 12 million. Arshavin really wanted to move to London and was potentially damaged goods for Zenit, as mentally he had already left Zenit and moved on to Arsenal. A game at the Emirates Club was also offered to Zenit, which was probably worth about $500,000 in revenue. Arsenal further bumped up their offer by 1 million, but there was still a 2 million gap in the valuation. Arsene Wenger really wanted the player, but Ken Pryor, the then chairman of Arsenal, was unwilling to go higher. David Dean, the former vice chairman of the club, was called up for assistance. He suggested to speak to Alisher Usmanov, Arsenal's second largest shareholder, owning 30% of the club's equity at that time. Usmanov advised that Arshavin to go and see Alexei Miller at Gazprom. Gazprom is the owner of Zenit. Word began to circulate that Usmanov had got involved, which was softening the Russian club's stance a little. On 30th of January, as things appeared a bit brighter, and Arshavin was convinced it was happening due to Usmanov's involvement, he got on a plane to Paris, as he did not want to be seen in England in case the media picked up on it. But it seemed that he had jumped the gun, and he ended up sitting in a Paris hotel room on his phone, waiting to find out what will happen at that night. The transfer window now reached 31st January, which was the penultimate day of the window. Also, the weather report for that day and the following day was not good, with snowstorms expected to engulf London into the deadline day. Seeing this, Arshavin was flown into England on a private jet to the village hotel in Elstree. Arsenal were at 13.5 million now, solely from Arsene Wenger pushing the club to increase their offer. The following day, 1st of February, Arshavin was photographed in every national newspaper, standing outside the Elstree Hotel in his bobble hat, looking at the snow, texting on his mobile phone. After consultation with the Football Association and FIFA, the Premier League announced that the transfer deadline would be pushed back until 5 p.m. on 2nd February. The weather had made traveling across the country difficult, which resulted into delays in physical movement of players, in face-to-face talks, as well as the medicals for the players. This extra time relaxed the things a bit, but there was still no movement. Zenit informed Arsenal that there was a meeting at 3 p.m. UK time to discuss Arshavin's situation, which left just 2 hours to the end of the window. Arsenal, in the meanwhile, used medical facilities based in Harley Street and took Arshavin for his medical so that there wouldn't be any hold-up on the medical front. Arsenal offered total 13.8 million at this stage. The transfer window was now into the final 40 minutes. The answer came back yes from the Russians that they will do the deal at 15 million. The agent from Arsenal decided to offer the additional 1.2 himself to get the deal across the finish line. But this new agreement was only on a term sheet. There needed to be an exchange of paperwork between the two clubs to confirm the agreement formally. Back in 2009, the Premier League wanted hard copies of such confirmations and not emails. They needed a fax. But unfortunately, the Russians' fax machine wasn't working and the window was into the final minute now. With 4 seconds left on the clock, the email arrived from Zenit stating agreed. But technically, the required forms had still not been submitted in time. Arsenal finally had to wait until the early hours of 3rd of February before the deal was formally confirmed, while the FA and the Premier League investigated the paper trail. Meanwhile, what was Arshavin doing all this while? Well, he was playing FIFA to distract himself. He played the Be a Pro option and chose to be himself, starting in the Arsenal team, thereby making his debut earlier in FIFA at the Emirates than the actual Emirates Stadium.